And ladies and gentlemen, from the belly of the beast in the nation's capital, United States Senator John McCain is joining us on the phone as promised. And it's always, John, it's always great to have you on the air with us today. Thanks for coming on.
Well, thanks for Barry. And I got to tell you, this is the best of times and the worst of times.
Well, listen.
Worst of times because of what they're about to are trying to do to take away health care from millions of seniors all over America, as well as placing another $2.5 trillion debt on future generations of Americans. But it's the best of times in that fact I've not seen Republicans more cohesive and more combative than and making the argument, and we have seen that in a definite change in the polls where more and more Americans are figuring what this is all about. And the latest one of the polls I saw, 61% of the American people now want this stopped. And I'm telling you, they're going down to the White House today, and I'm sure that they're working hard to get this thing done. But it is one of the most important events in history. And you put on top of that all the spending stuff that's been going on, which is another outrage of incredible proportions. So we got a lot to talk about, my friend.
Well, this can't, I'm going to use a double negative. This can't possibly not have an effect on 2010. When I was a poll out, you saw it last week, where the majority, it's a huge number of Americans, maybe not quite a majority, but a huge number say they'd prefer to have George Bush back.
Oh, yeah. But you got to remember also, why did we lose? Why did we lose in 2006 and 2008 to a large degree? Is because we had Republicans who were big spenders, Republicans who voted for every appropriations bill, who were earmarkers. We still have Republicans who are voting against Tom Coburn's and my efforts to remove these earmarks and pork barrel spending. But I'm happy to tell you that number is getting fewer and fewer, and the number of Democrats is overwhelming, where it's business as usual. Pork barrel spending. You know, I was on the floor the last few days on this this omnibus spending bill. Let me give you two of my favorites real quick, okay? $2.7 million to support surgical operations in outer space at the University of Nebraska. Now, I know that Trekkies all over America, Bones is on the bridge, Mr. Spock and Captain Kirk. I mean, they're all cheering this on. But it's $2.7 million when we've got a $1.5 trillion debt this year. My other favorite, let me tell you, Barry, $655,000. I'm not making this up now. For Cedars-Sinai Medical Center for equipment and supplies for the Institution for Irritable Bowel Syndrome Research. Now, I've got to be very careful how I address this.
Yes, sir.
But if we keep doing like we're doing here in Washington, I may support for the first time an earmark in the history of my time in the Congress of the United States.
All right. Let me ask you, as long as we're on this, the president is going to wheel out this morning. He's going to be, I think he's going to be there with the director, the head guy from Home Depot. He and Bill Clinton and the Home Depot guy have cooked up a new thing called Cash for Caulking, as far as I can see. Cash for Caulkers to winterize your home. Have you heard about this one?
No, but it sounds wonderful.
This one is going to spend $23 million additional dollars in addition to the $5 billion unspent in the Porculus program to encourage people and give them money back if they whip out their caulking guns and, get to work around their house and put in storm windows and doors and all of that. And they're going to announce that, I think, in just a few hours.
Well, look, you and I were together. I was on your program by coincidence when Cash for Clunkers started, and both you and I predicted what would happen. Yeah, they'd sell some cars, and then it would drop right back down to where it was before. And still, these car companies that we own are hemorrhaging money, and I still don't think, look at other observers. And by the way, you notice, I don't know if you noticed or not, but the Swedish government, Saab, is in trouble. The Swedish government refused to bail out Saab. The United States government bailed out Chrysler and General Motors. Now, tell me again, which country is socialist? Huh?
Oh, man.
I'm not making it up.
They refused to bail out Saab. Well, we had Timothy Geithner come out on, I think it was, yesterday, and he said that we're going to lose. They were supposed to make money eventually on this General Motors thing. This year, we're going to lose $30 billion on the GM bailout. It's going to cost us $30 billion so far just this year.
Well, that's a pittance compared to what we need to do to help our automobile workers unions. I mean, that's pittance. But could I get back to well, we're going to do another bill, by the way, where they're loading up on the defense appropriations bill. I'll probably vote against the defense appropriations bill because they're putting a debt limit increase, which, by the way, would put them past the next election, so this wouldn't have to happen again. It'll be the largest vote for debt limit increase in history, and they're loading it up with a whole bunch of pork and marking again. And remember, this was the president that said that as short a time ago as last March that we would do away with this earmark and pork barrel spending. Last bill we just passed, $4.3 billion worth of earmarks in it. I mean, this is a situation which has lurched completely out of control. I mean, I have never, in my wildest imagination, would have thought that this spending would be going on. Meanwhile, Americans are hurting worse than ever before, including the citizens of Arizona. By the way, did you see the one study lately? The average federal worker is now making $30,000 a year more than the average worker.
And there's a study out today. Well, news from IRS out today. Federal employees owe, I think, $3 billion in back taxes. Federal employees aren't paying their taxes. They owe $3 billion in back taxes.
Well, and of course, you know where the overwhelming majority of these job creations have come from in the stimulus package.
Well, these are good government jobs, is what they are.
There you go. We're growing government at a rate that is unprecedented in war and in peace.
I tell you, when I burn out on this radio thing, I'm going to get me a good government job one day. And
well, I think I can help out. I've got a lot of influence over there at the White House, and I'll help out. There's some openings over at the irritable bowel.
Well, if they got $655 million for this, I got the bowels for it. So there we go.
Well, there's also some of our listeners that would like to send you up in outer space and perform some surgery up.
Hell, there's management people that want to send me up there.
Michele wants you to go immediately.
Right now. All right, let me ask you about this. As long as we're on money, one other question about money, and then I got to ask you about Harry Reid. He doesn't have his 60 votes, so the president's going to haul him into the White House today. But yesterday, the president had the bankers in after insulting them over the weekend, called them a bunch of fat cat, overpaid guys, and then he calls them in and pictures of them all smiling and glad handing each other, and told them they got to get out there and lend more money. Now, what do you see? What's going on here?
I see bankers who took advantage of a program, TARP, that was intended, in the view of those of us who voted for it, to help the housing crisis, which was the start, which was the igniter of this financial crisis that we're in. Instead, they took that money and they bailed out the financial institutions. They made billions and billions. They're distributing billions of dollars, while meanwhile on Main Street America, they're hurting like never before. And so these bankers, of course they're greedy, and of course they're the ones that started it, and of course they're to blame. But they didn't design the TARP program. That was done by Mr. Geithner. And so I don't care for them very much, to tell you the truth. I think that when the head of Goldman says they're doing the Lord's work, I'm a bit taken aback. But look, the problem was the program. We still have homeowners. 48% of the home mortgages in Arizona are worth less than the payments? And what have we done for those people? What have we done for small business? Drive down Central Avenue today and look at those storefronts that are closed. That's the next wave, by the way, is the commercial real estate market. I'm angry at the bankers too, but I'm not as angry as I am about a TARP that everybody thought was going to address the housing crisis and help homeowners, and turned in to be some kind of trickle down economics, I guess. You see my point, Barry? And I'm seeing empty storefronts. That big shopping center over there. Corella, what's the name of that big shopping center over there on Indian Bend and Pima Road? It's over on the Indian Reservation.
Oh yeah,
it's half the
that.
Half the stores are empty over there. I mean, it's devastating.
Well, these big financial institutions are making all the profits. The banks that lend, they're the ones that are going under. Those are the ones that provide the capital for small business, not Goldman, not Morgan, not these big banks. Financial institutions, they trade things, I mean, It's really terrible. There's a piece called American Casino. If you have a chance to see it, it's a documentary on how all this derivatives trading and all this stuff, words that most of us don't even understand, was basically a Ponzi scheme that was bound to collapse.
Right.
And so, but the people who are hurting are the homeowners and the small business people. Who's being helped? The financial institutions on Wall Street.
Not getting to the homeowner.
Exactly, and not getting to the small business people. Life is anecdotal, but I've had so many people come up to me in the street and standing in line, trying to get a cup of coffee, that say, "I can't get credit. I can't get credit. I've never been a credit risk. But the bank called and said that I couldn't have a line of credit anymore because they're putting a squeeze on them to increase their reserves." You see what I mean? And so I'm sure that these people that were over at the White House with President Obama, by the way, they were all supporters of his, that they're going to say, yeah, we're going to try to help small business. And the trading floor is open, and they make more billions.
I've got to stop for a moment here. Can you stay to the top of the hour? Because I want to ask you about Harry Reid. He's being hauled into the White House. He doesn't have his 60 votes. Now, I want to talk to you about that since you're right in the center of the Senate on this thing. So hang on for just a second. Senator John McCain joining us from Washington, D.C. It's KFYI. This thing is the inertia of it, so to speak, about to get so heavy it's going to just collapse on itself. Is that a possibility finally?
I pray so, but on the other hand, they know that if they fail, that this will be a repetition in their view of when Hillary Care failed back in 93 and 94. They're pulling out all the stops. They are pulling out all the stops. And remember, the President of the United States, October a year ago, candidate Obama said, we'll have the C-SPAN cameras in so that everybody can see these negotiations and who's on the side of the pharmaceutical companies, who's on the side of the American people. They just cut another unsavory deal with pharma, whose lobbyist, by the way, makes about $2.5 million a year, and that will be harmful to America's seniors.
You know, they had, you know about this thing, a couple of weeks ago, the Obama administration was holding a meeting on government transparency and closed it to the public and to the press, to the cameras.
Listen, I was on the floor in a colloquy with Senator Durbin of Illinois. He's the number 2 ranking guy 3 days ago. And I said, what's in the bill? And he said, none of us know what's in the bill. Here we are after a year of debate. He said, none of us know what's in the bill. Only Harry Reid. I don't want to get into the intricacies of it, but he keeps bouncing these ideas off the Congressional Budget Office in hopes to make it look like that there are some cost savings associated with it. You cannot expand business benefits. You cannot expand the role of government without increasing costs. You cannot square the circle. But this fight, I'm telling you, we are talking about 1/7 of the gross national product, and we have been fighting, and I'm proud. Not only proud, but I'm proud of all the Arizonans that have called in and written and are supporting me. And John Kyle does a great, magnificent job as leader. I'm telling you.
So the bottom line for us out here watching you guys fight this good fight, the bottom line to the American people, regardless of what they heard this summer at the town hall meetings, don't shut up. Just keep making the noise.
Keep making the noise.
Keep making the noise.
And this may be a seminal election this next fall because Americans are more angry about spending, about mortgaging our children's futures, about government involvement in every aspect of our lives, and they want their freedom back, my friend. They don't want to take it from them.
All right, John. Listen, I don't know if we'll talk again before Christmas, but Merry Christmas.
I hope so.
Merry Christmas,
to you
John.
and Michelle.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks, pal.
Thank you.
Bye.
John McCain joining us, fighting the good battle in Washington, D.C., folks.